Right now on the National Weather Desk, here comes winter. The season's outlook is out this morning. Will it be colder and snowier, warmer and drier? It all depends on where you live, thanks to La Niña.
Warm and wet to cold and dry in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks.
While much of Texas is praying for rain as lakes shrink and fire risks rise.
And all it takes is wind and a spark.
Why now is the time to start planting bulb flowers.
We're getting into a great time of year to plant fall bulbs.
Now that's a great pumpkin. Hear from the Maine meteorologist who grew this record-setting gourd.
Putting on over 50 pounds per day.
And it's Friday, which means it's time for our weekly football forecast.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. This will likely be a very different winter compared to last year. The Climate Prediction Center issued its annual winter outlook yesterday. And depending on where you live, it could be cold and snowier or drier and warmer. As Maribel Gonzalez explains, the changes are thanks to the arrival of the climate pattern known as La Niña.
This winter could look a little different than the last one.
Overall, we are expecting warmer than normal temperatures across the southern tier of the country.
Last year, the natural climate pattern known as El Niño, in addition to warming due to fossil fuel pollution, brought warmer winters in the south and cooler ones in the north, with less snow in much of the northeast and Midwest. This year, its counterpart, La Niña, could bring a warmer and drier south and a wetter north.
Above normal temperatures are more likely across the southern tier of the country, also northward along the eastern seaboard, with below normal temperatures favored for parts of the northern Rockies and northern plains.
But no two La Niña winters are the same, and their strength matters. The Climate Prediction Center forecasts this one to be a weaker event.
We would expect a more variable weather pattern. So you could go from warm and wet to cold and dry in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks.
And while El Niño and La Niña climate patterns help give us a good idea of what to expect, experts like Peter Goebel, climatologist at Colorado State University, says Mother Nature will have the ultimate say.
I like to use the analogy with El Niño, La Niña of it's like playing a game of cards or poker with a few extra aces in the deck. You might have an idea of how the deck is stacked, but it doesn't mean you know exactly what hand you're going to get.
Cold and snowy weather is already being felt in the Pacific Northwest. The Cascades saw its first snow of the season on Thursday. This video comes to us from Timberline Lodge, east of Portland, Oregon. It sits at an elevation of 6,000 feet, which helps explain all the snow and the howling winds. Areas outside Seattle also saw their first snow of the season. And as Jackie Kent reports, people are getting excited for winter.
Skykomish Mayor Henry Sladek is in maintenance mode, getting his Cascadia Inn and Cafe ready for winter visitors.
Make sure you have enough staff, but it's pretty quiet pretty much during October until you get into late November.
He was thrilled to see the first snowfall at nearby Stevens Pass. The mountain cameras revealed the early morning gloom and flakes masking the fall colors. By the afternoon, there were short bursts of snow, but only sticking at much higher elevations. How important is this for the businesses around here?
Very important. Right now, we're kind of in between seasons. We're always kind of itchy for that to start.
Most of the shops around the quaint town have limited fall hours, and it's during summer and winter that the area really comes alive. The snowfall is also exciting for many, considering last year brought lower snowfall totals and a slow start.
Well, the highway gets packed, and especially if the highway closes and people are kind of stranded up here, and it's easy to get overrun. I mean, it only takes about 100 people here in town to fill up the town, basically.
Stevens Pass Ski Resort, in a statement, writes that while they are not expecting much accumulation just yet, it's a sure sign winter is on its way. And while these flakes aren't enough for the resorts to do anything with just yet, hopes are high at Snoqualmie Pass, where the resort employs 1,500 people each ski season, and they're watching the climate patterns for what's ahead.
I always like to think that every season is a little bit different. La Niña is always a good sign, but we'll see how it shakes out.
Now, the winter outlook is not good news for Texas. Many areas are bone dry, and a La Niña winter will likely only make things worse. San Antonio meteorologist Chris Suchan went on Facebook to show us how the drought is hurting area lakes.
I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan here on a gorgeous day, but another day without rain in Canyon Lake, the hill country of Texas, where our big lakes in South Texas are really struggling. Canyon Lake is down almost 26 feet. There you can see some of the impact here. 26 feet from normal, 53.6% full, which is a record low level. This is boat ramp 19 out of 23. This one here is only open to members of the marina. The public no longer has access to it. You see, you got to go way down there to get your boat in. 18 is open, but that's an at your own risk boat ramp. And then there are a few ramps that are under construction, trying to extend the ramps out for the public. In the marina here, well, they've moved their boat slips out 150 feet from normal. They have also taken in another marina where they moved over the slips from Cranes Mill Marina, so those boat owners still have access to the lake here. But sad situation at Canyon Lake. Lousy pattern for rain and La Nina winter ahead, which typically doesn't really help us out much in South Texas.
In Central Texas, the dry weather is also raising concerns about wildfires. It comes as Austin prepares for hordes of visitors this weekend for the University of Texas football game and also Formula One racing. As Betty Cross explains, the region is under a disaster declaration.
On Saturday, the University of Texas campus will be packed with 250,000 fans here to watch the Longhorns take on Georgia. Smoking grills are a big part of the tailgate scene, and gusty winds could blow embers onto shriveled grass and brush.
Embers can travel up to 1.5 miles, potentially affecting properties well away from the flames.
Wins the U.S. Grand Prix. Formula One races are bringing an even bigger crowd to Austin. The heightened risk of weekend wildfires has Austin and Travis County taking steps to avoid a disaster.
We're issuing a preemptive disaster declaration so that we're prepared to respond as quickly and effectively as is possible in the event of a wildfire.
The disaster declarations allow for pre-positioning of firefighting equipment in high-threat areas. Staffing is also being increased, so fire crews are ready to respond 24/7.
Vegetation's available. The dry, cool climate is giving us the humidity that we need for a wildfire, and all it takes is wind and a spark.
90% of wildfires are caused by people discarding cigarettes, burning debris, and letting RV safety chains drag on the ground.
With all the visitors we have in town, we need them to be extremely cautious because they may not know that we're in critical fire weather.
And drought is having impacts in nearby Arkansas, where dry weather and windy conditions also have officials warning about an increased risk for wildfires. And as Andrew Mobley reports, the problem could go on for weeks.
The Department of Agriculture says the increased threat is primarily due to strong winds combined with drought conditions and low humidity.
We had some 25, maybe 30 miles an hour gust across the state. If that comes through at the right time, with the relative humidities being low and the fuels already being dry, that's really a recipe for catastrophic wildfire.
A large fire broke out at Fort Chaffee as a result of a training exercise. The blaze visible from Fort Smith. Meanwhile, more high winds that create ideal conditions for a fire to spread may be approaching in the coming days.
There's another front predicted to come through the end of the week. And maybe one next week could bring some winds with it as well.
Because of the heightened wildfire risk, the state's Forestry Division is urging Arkansans to avoid outdoor burning, even in areas not under a burn ban. That includes everything from campfires to open flame grilling and prescribed burns, as well as precautions that many may not usually consider.
Making sure their safety chains are not rubbing on the asphalt if they're pulling a trailer. Those sparks can cause fires.
The burn bans may be in effect for a good while. It doesn't look like much rain is coming anytime soon.
Unless we see a big shot of moisture come in, I think it's going to be, a couple of weeks, maybe a month before we might see some real relief.
And for the latest and most up-to-date weather content, be sure to check us out on social media. You can find us on all your favorite platforms. Just search for the National Weather Desk. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll show you a record-breaking 2,300-pound huge pumpkin and find out what it takes to grow them to that size and weight. Plus, tips on how to make sure your plants can survive an overnight frost.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a nice looking day on tap for today with a lot of sunshine. Temps will be in the low to mid 60s. Early morning temps are pretty much starting in the 30s and low 40s. There's a storm that's just missing us off to the southeast. That one's going to pull out into the ocean and not affect us here in the Northeast at all. 2 o'clock in the afternoon today, notice the lack of clouds. High pressure will be firmly in control of our weather through the weekend. And if anything, temperatures continue to warm. On Saturday, we'll be in the mid to upper 60s.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. A low-pressure system is pulling away. High pressure is building in, so we are going to be seeing nothing but sunshine over the next several days as it's just not going anywhere. Get ready to see temperatures warming up, too. We'll be near 70 degrees for your afternoon on Friday, with the exception of the mountains, and that'll be the case again even as we make our way into Saturday, seeing those temperatures step up a little bit each day all the way into next week.
Good Friday morning. Meteorologist Michael Arenberg with a look at your Southeast regional forecast for this Friday. Most of the Southeast will enjoy pleasant sunny skies from the Mississippi east to the Carolinas and all the way out west towards Louisiana and Texas. Far south Florida, the gusty onshore wind that'll blow a lot of ocean stratocumulus onshore with perhaps some showers from Miami-Dade and areas south. High temperatures, 60s and 70s, most areas 69, the cool spot in Atlanta. The warm spot 82 there in Tampa with low 80s in South Florida.
Tracking the tropics this morning, odds are increasing that a disturbance near Central America will turn into a tropical cyclone. The National Hurricane Center now says there's a 50% chance of formation in the next 48 hours. A second disturbance near the Leeward Islands now has just a 10% chance of development. And 3 weeks after Hurricane Helene roared through the southeast, a group of Florida firefighters is heading home. They've been working in the mountains of North Carolina. As Luli Ortiz reports, their work was like nothing they'd ever experienced.
Welcome home. What they saw in Yancey County near Asheville was something they've never experienced before.
This is the worst deployment I've been on. Just the destruction throughout the town, throughout the county was tremendous.
Helene unleashed catastrophic floods and mudslides, washing away major roads, leaving residents stranded with no access to fresh water or food.
Military personnel that were with us were like, this reminds us of Afghanistan, Iraq. It reminded them of that just because of the sheer destruction.
Roads were completely out. It got to a point where you could drive to a certain point. You had to get out and get on a side-by-side or a John Deere Gator and drive to another point, and then from there you had to actually hike to get to a lot of people's homes.
They still managed to communicate with residents even though there's no electricity or cell service.
We began to set up a trap line, which is just setting out boards of here's information and convenient location where people are going to gather so they can at least get updated as they get out.
They were up in the mountains.
So then it was getting cold. So then we started ordering winter gear. Nobody has power, so we're ordering generators. We're ordering those little space heaters. We're ordering hot hands, toe warmers, stocking caps, blankets. We're ordering anything we can because snow's coming in the next week here.
Now to Iowa, where it's just a matter of time before snow covers the ground and the snowplows have to hit the streets. These days, plow drivers are using a high-tech way to make sure their skills are sharp. Grayson Freund has the story.
I would try to think of it like a video game, a very high-tech video game.
L3 Harris's snowplow simulation trailer is trekking across the state, bringing hands-on virtual training to plow operators in a controlled environment.
You start the truck, it vibrates. When you hit the brakes, the seat moves around. The steering wheel has some feedback to it. When you put the plow down, you kind of feel a little vibration and stuff.
The simulation takes drivers through the situations they'll encounter in the real world, getting them back into the right mindset before hitting the roads this winter. The state covers the cost for IDOT's winter plow operators to go through the simulator every 3 to 4 years, while tow plow drivers get the refresher course every year.
It gets drivers thinking about what they're going to encounter on the road as far as pedestrians, cars, accidents, animals. It'll simulate bad weather, low visibility, nighttime, headlights.
At the end of the training period, drivers are scored on their proficiency in operating the equipment under winter driving conditions, making sure they're road ready.
Things turned frosty in parts of Maine recently, a sign that fall is settling in and winter is drawing closer. Meteorologist Emily Santom explains the conditions needed for frost to form and how to protect your plants.
As it goes for frost, we're looking at temperatures less than 36 degrees. That's when you can see the patchy frost and widespread frost too. Also clear skies and calm winds. So as the nights get much colder, here are a few ways to protect your plants, your crops from being damaged or even killed in these weather events. Looking at mostly watering your plants. A lot of water before a frost or freeze can actually keep the plant warmer. The water actually helps retain heat. Also cover your plants or even bring them inside.
If you're a fan of bulb flowers like tulips and crocuses, it's time now to grab the shovel and do some digging sooner rather than later. Meteorologist Ryan Munn has more.
If you're looking forward to a colorful garden next year, there are things to do right now.
The best successor to a white Christmas or a gray March are the pinks and purples and yellows that these spring bulbs have to offer. The first step towards planting a spring garden, because the fall bulbs flower in the spring, is by planting fall bulbs now. And now we're getting into a great time of year to plant fall bulbs. This is the time.
Skillen says you have between now and when the ground freezes to plant bulbs, as they need at least 15 weeks of chilling to flower in the spring. It's also a good idea to water the soil before planting.
Most of your bulbs are going to do fine in most soils. A little bit of compost never hurts any plant.
That's right.
So if you want to kind of prepare a bed first, that's always a good idea. But they're going to be, especially daffodils, are going to be super hardy, and they're just going to kind of take off in just about any environment you put them in, as long as there's enough sun.
But there are specifics to keep in mind.
Bulbs should be planted always a little deeper than people think. About 3 times as deep as the bulb is wide. So if you've got a 2-inch bulb like this tulip here, at least 6 inches down.
There are many varieties of bulbs to choose from.
Siberian squill is a great one. You can plant that in, like, if you have a shadier spot. I mean, they do prefer a lot of sun, but they can go in some partial shades.
They also thrive in urban environments. Another beauty of bulbs, you can plant them together or spread them out to your taste.
If you want to do a mass planting, you can kind of smush them as close as you want. If you want to kind of spread them out, that's fine too.
Meteorologist Charlie Lopresti is known for more than just his accurate forecasts. He also grows giant pumpkins. This year, he broke the state record of Maine with a 2,300-pound pumpkin. He spoke to Emily Gracie about how he grows these award winners.
We planted this indoors in a 4-inch pot in early April, first week of April. At the same time, while it was growing indoors, I usually, put it in front of the window just so it, gets some sunlight during the day. Outdoors in our pumpkin patch, I would have a little enclosure, a little hoop house, if you will. It's kind of like a little greenhouse, Emily. And in the soil, I put about a 40-foot gutter cable on a thermostat. So I heated the soil, and it really allows the roots to thrive and grow well. So it's going to live inside that little, I think it was about a 6 by 8 foot hoop house or greenhouse until probably the last week in May. That comes off, and then the pumpkin's free to grow. The plant's ready to go.
When you told me about how fast they gain weight, I was shocked.
It really starts putting on weight right around day 30, which would take it to about, late July. And when you ask, how fast do they grow? It's in that window between late July and mid-August where they're putting on over 50 pounds per day.
Has being a meteorologist helped you in this game at all?
One of the things I really tried to focus in on this year was the dew point, Emily. So over the years, I've always tried to water about 150 gallons per plant per day. And I just kind of stuck to it, 150 gallons of water per plant per day. And in the last few years, I started realizing that I might be overwatering, say when the dew point's 65, the soil is just, or 75, it's just not drying out. Say the soil stays wet on humid days. But in Maine, we get those dry days as well, where the dew point might be down into the 50s, and we're getting a lot of evaporation. So, so those days might get more of 200 gallons of water per plant per day.
Time now for a short break, but first, let's soar over the coast of Santa Catarina, Brazil.
Good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Cold front giving us a little bit of rain draped across the Midwest, and that's going to very, very slowly try to move across the Midwest over the weekend into early next week. But a lot of us seeing a lot of sunshine across the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley, continuing on into the day tomorrow. Again, just kind of a thin band of some rain. Most of the Midwest stays dry tomorrow. Same for your Sunday with temperatures warming up.
Good Friday morning to you. Meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region. Starting off with, again, those cool, crisp temperatures. Low 40s in Little Rock and right around about 59 in New Orleans. The afternoon in the 70s. Notice a little bit more cloud cover scattered across Texas where there's a slight chance of a sprinkle or shower. A little bit more humidity also working in. And then here's Saturday. Cool in the morning. The afternoon, really a beautiful Saturday across the region. Highs in the 70s and 80s. Slight rain chance in Texas.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West now that we've got significantly below average temperatures moving into the Intermountain West with quite a bit of mountain snow coming down behind a cold front. That's going to be tracking out today, and now we have an atmospheric river pointing up into the Pacific Northwest, bringing in rain at times and gusty wind. That's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Time now for this week's football forecast, the weather forecast, not who's going to beat the spread. Here's meteorologist Katie Morgan.
We're in for some great matchups this weekend. Let's get right to the forecast, and we're going to start with your college forecast here. We're taking a look at the Alabama-Tennessee game in Knoxville. This will be at 3:30 in the afternoon. Temperatures looking good. Weather's going to be perfect, really, area-wide. Temperatures in the low 70s with sunny skies. In Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, Michigan taking on Illinois. Lots of sunshine with upper 60s at kickoff. And a night game in Austin, big game, one of the biggest, I'd say, of the year. Georgia at Texas. We'll see temperatures at kickoff in the upper 70s. To Sunday we go. Some of our NFL matchups. The Bengals at the Browns in Cleveland. Looking good in Cleveland this weekend. On Sunday, temperatures in the upper 60s. Texans visiting Green Bay, taking on the Packers at 1 p.m. Temperatures right around 72 with sunshine. And an afternoon game in San Francisco. The Chiefs in town taking on the 49ers. Mid-70s, looking good in California. Hope you guys are having a great start to your Friday.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Make it a great Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you right back here on Monday for the National Weather Desk.